Hey guys, listen carefully. Today I will tell you about the dark secrets of medieval sleeping habits. Let's get started. Tonight we're slipping beneath the creaky floorboards of history and into a world where sleep smelled like smoke, sounded like snoring peasants, and came in two strange halves. You're about to become someone who sleeps in wool, keeps a knife by the bed, and prays away nightmares, because dreams, in this world, could be dangerous. You probably wouldn't survive. This, not because it's deadly. Although, let's be honest, the bedbugs might qualify as a low-tier assassination squad. But because there's no plumbing, no soundproofing, and absolutely no memory foam. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I always love seeing how far we drift together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The room is quiet, not silent, never truly silent. You can hear a fire crackling. Somewhere nearby, the occasional rustle of rough linen as someone rolls over, the sigh of old wood shifting with the night air. But the village outside has gone still. Even the dogs seem to know it's time to hush. That you're lying on a bed of straw, or maybe on a frame with ropes stretched beneath a mattress of ticking cloth and hay. If you're lucky, there's a feather bed under your shoulders, though those are more common in homes with coin to spare. You're under a woolen blanket that smells faintly of sheep and smoke. It's heavy enough to pin you in place. The air is cold on your face, but your body is wrapped in warmth. The window, just a wooden shutter, really, is closed tight. The candle at your bedside flickers low. It was made from tallow, not wax, and it gives off a smell that is, let's call it, animal forward. The flame dances, casting shadows on the wall that look a little too alive. Sleep comes slowly in the medieval world. There's no glowing screen, no lull of white noise beyond what nature offers. Just the crackle of the fire, the soft, nasal breathing of someone nearby, and the sensation that the night stretches out forever. You can't check the time. There is no time, not in the way you're used to. You sleep when the sun disappears, and you rise when it returns. You shift a little on your mattress. A piece of straw pokes your thigh. You try not to move too much. Others are sleeping nearby. Your brother, maybe, or your grandmother. A servant curled up at the foot of the bed. Possibly even a small goat in the corner, if you live in tighter quarters. Privacy? A luxury. You don't even think about it. Instead, you close your eyes and listen. Your body, used to a day of walking, lifting, kneading dough, or drawing water, begins to ease into rest. The fire pops again. Someone snores. The walls of the house are thick, made of stone or wattle and daub. Outside, the night is alive with unseen things. Foxes, wind, spirits, if you believe in that sort of thing. And most people do. You've heard the stories that there's something sacred about this moment. The day has ended. The world has paused. You whisper a prayer, just in case something's listening, and settle deeper into the lumpy mattress. Most people in your time don't think of sleep as one long stretch. Instead, it's divided. You'll sleep for a few hours now. What people later called first sleep. Then you'll wake in the middle of the night, fully alert for a while. No one finds this strange. It's just how things are. First sleep, and second, but that part comes later. For now, your breathing slows. This is where most dreams begin. You feel the coolness of night against your nose. Somewhere nearby, a piece of firewood collapses with a soft thud. The room is dark now. The candle has guttered out. Maybe you used it to check your feet for lice before bed, or to inspect a scab on your ankle that's taking too long to heal. Maybe you muttered a blessing and let it burn out on its own. That you're not afraid of the dark. Not exactly, but you don't trust it either. It's full of unknowns. When the light goes out, the world becomes different, less solid, more suggestive. This is when dreams matter. This is when things slip between worlds. You fall asleep with a bone-handled knife under your blanket. Not because you expect danger, but because everyone does. The night is too long to risk being caught off guard. There's a smell of hearth smoke in your hair. The fire dies lower. The quiet deepens. The bat clicks softly against the roof timbers. Somewhere in the thatch above, a mouse scurries along a beam, claws scratching at old wood. You hear the slow exhale of the dog, and then it comes, that moment when your body tips. One breath you're aware of, and then the next one slips away that you're not dreaming yet, but you're gone. Outside, the village remains cloaked in sleep. One small home at a time, all through the hills and fields. Windows are shut, shutters sealed, and rooms darkened. Inside, people breathe in unison. Deep, slow, and steady. This is not a world of beds as you know them. There are no spring mattresses or clean lines. Beds are tucked into corners, sometimes built into the walls. In wealthier homes, they're canopied and curtained, fortresses against drafts and prying eyes. In cottages, there's simple things. Planks, rope, straw. Beds where you sleep fully clothed, with your boots beside you in case of trouble. That it's no surprise that beds are one of the most prized items in any household. A good bed means better rest. Better rest means more strength to work, to pray, to survive. Some beds are shared between siblings, others between spouses and servants, some between mothers and infants. It's not uncommon for 5 people to share one bed. You make room. You sleep in layers, curled tight, wrapped in wool. You get used to elbows and knees, and you dream. When dreams come, some say dreams are messages. Others say they're temptations. No one says they're meaningless. Tonight, though, you aren't dreaming yet. You're in the heavy, slow beginning of rest. You've sunk into a world where time bends, and breath becomes rhythm, and all things, fleas, fires, thoughts, begin to fade. You've entered the first sleep. The dark secrets of the medieval night are only beginning to stir, and they'll wait until you open your eyes again, right around midnight. Midnight arrives not like a crash, but like a breath. You wake up, not startled, not alarmed, just awake. That's what people did in the Middle Ages. They didn't sleep straight through the night. Sleep came in 2 shifts. The first sleep, which took you from nightfall to somewhere near midnight, and the second sleep, which picked up afterward and carried you to morning. In between. That quiet, floating time in the dark. Not quite night, not quite day. You sit up slowly, rubbing your face. The coals in the hearth have gone dim, but there's still a little glow. You can see your breath in the cold air. The blanket slips from your shoulders. Wool always smells like something lived in it, because something usually did. One surprised you're awake. They expect it. This is a normal part of life. You rise and pull on your tunic, careful not to trip over the rough floorboards, or the person snoring next to you. You feel for your shoes by memory, then decide against them. The floor's freezing, but you've grown used to that. People do different things in this waking hour. Some get up to stoke the fire, check the animals, or even go outside to relieve themselves under a black sky filled with stars. Others stay in bed but talk softly, pray, or reflect. Married couples. Well, let's just say it was commonly believed that this was the best time for intimacy. The body, they said, was more refreshed, and the quiet gave space for closeness. You walk to the window and ease open the shutter. Cold air rushes in. The village is dark. A few flickers of candlelight in distant windows show you're not the only one awake. Somewhere, a rooster crows, too early, always. The stars are sharp and bright, like they've been carved into the sky. The moon hangs low, pale, and calm. Segmented sleep isn't something people question. It's not a problem to be solved. It's just the way things are. The rhythm of the night has always included this pause, this space. You wonder, briefly, if the sun itself rests in halves, dipping below the edge of the world to catch its breath. Before climbing again, most people don't write about this part of the night, but it shows up in old prayers and poems, in quiet references tucked into manuscripts. Some monks kept track of this hour as part of their holy routine. They'd wake in the dark for matins, the midnight prayer, and chant in cold stone halls. While the rest of the world hovered between dreams, you slip out of the sleeping chamber. The door creaks, but not enough to disturb anyone. The hallway is barely lit, just a tiny glow from a small oil lamp someone left burning low. You know this house well enough to move without thinking. Your breath echoes. The floor creaks beneath your steps. In this suspended hour, everything feels different. Like time isn't quite real. You're alert, but not fully awake. Rested, but not refreshed. It's a strange balance, one that people in the modern world would probably panic about. Why? Am I awake at 1 a.m.? They'd ask. But here, it's just life, and people use the time. They pray. They think. Some read, if they're lucky enough to be literate, and lucky enough to have something worth reading. A book, if your family owns one, is a rare treasure. You imagine someone like you, far away in another village, flipping through worn parchment. By candlelight, eyes half-lidded and mind soft from sleep, you sit by the fire. There's still a little heat in the stones. You throw a small log on the coals. Sparks jump. The shadows dance. A mug of ale from the evening sits on the table. It's lukewarm now, but you sip it anyway. The taste is flat and earthy. You're not expecting refreshment. It's something to do, a way to keep the stillness company. The dog pads in from the other room and circles once before curling up at your feet. You feel its warmth seep through your socks. The fire crackles. Again, some scholars have wondered if segmented sleep was a biological response to the long nights of winter. When the sun sets early and rises late, maybe the body just adjusted. Others argue that our ancestors used this midnight break as a way to bring more awareness into their rest, to reflect and reset before starting the second round. And then there's the open question. Did people enjoy it? Historians still debate that. Did they find peace in this wakeful hour? Or did they yearn for uninterrupted rest? Was it sacred or just normal? You yawn. The warmth from the fire begins to work its way back into your skin. The air still smells, like wood smoke and wool and something faintly sweet, maybe dried apples stored in the rafters. You think about going back to bed, but there's something delicious about this time. No obligations, no noise, just darkness and breath and the weight of the blanket waiting for you. You don't need to be anywhere. You don't need to do anything. You're just here. Outside, the wind sighs against the shutters. Back in the sleeping room, someone stirs. A muffled cough, a creak of the bed frame. You imagine the others, turning in their sleep, unaware of your midnight wandering. They'll join you soon enough in this in-between time. You run your hands through your hair. It's tangled from sleep. You feel the rough edge of the wooden comb in your pocket. You pull it out and run it once through your hair, then twice, then stop. No mirror. Doesn't matter. You move slowly back toward the bed. The boards creak again. Your feet are colder than before. The dog, already half asleep again, doesn't follow. You let it stay by the hearth. It has its own dreams to tend, back under the blanket now. It's still warm from your first sleep. You curl into the familiar groove, pull it to your chin, and close your eyes. The night doesn't feel so dark now. You've seen it. You've tasted its air and felt its rhythm. You've been part of it. Now it's time to return, the second sleep. Waits just past the edge of thought. You breathe in. You breathe out, and just like that, the stars outside grow a little softer, the fire dies a little lower, and your second sleep begins. You sink into the second sleep like slipping into water. No splash, no edges, just warmth and weight. It takes you quickly, the kind of deep sleep that settles in your bones. The kind that doesn't let go until it absolutely has to. And when you dream now, oh, these dreams feel real. Sometimes they come as gentle things, simple stories, colors, conversations. Other times, they are strange, intense, soaked in symbols you don't understand. Maybe you're standing in a field you've never seen before. Maybe your dead uncle is telling you how to fix a leaky roof. Maybe a red crow is whispering your name. In the Middle Ages, none of this is treated lightly. You wake in the gray light of dawn, breath slow, the wool blanket heavy across your chest, and your mind still fogged from whatever dream you just left behind. You try to hold on to it. Some people keep bits of charcoal near the bed, in case they need to sketch what they've seen before it slips away. But you don't reach for anything. You just lie there, the shapes fading, the room slowly brightening. Above you, the wooden beams stretch like old ribs. The air is cold. Someone nearby is already moving. Feet on the floor, fabric rustling. Morning has started. You sit up slowly, your muscles stiff from sleep. Beds in this world aren't made for softness. They're made to lift you off the ground, keep you warm, and give you a place to dream. That's all. You look around. The bed frame creaks. Your straw mattress has shifted a little, and you'll need to fluff it back into shape tonight. The sheet beneath you is rough and grayish white, not because it's dirty, though, honestly, it probably is, but because pure white linen is expensive. Your pillow, if you have one, is thin and lumpy, but stitched into one corner is a tiny symbol, barely visible. Your grandmother embroidered it years ago. A charm, she said, to protect your head while you sleep. Medieval people don't take chances when it comes to rest. The bed is a vulnerable place. Your body is still. Your soul depending on who you ask, might wander. It's best to be cautious. Some hang crosses or holy tokens above the bed. Others place sprigs of herbs, lavender, rosemary, wormwood, between the sheets, not just for the scent, but for protection. A bed is a private world, a kind of cocoon, and you're expected to guard it like one. You stand now, stretching carefully. The floor is cold under your feet. You hear someone spitting into a basin nearby. Morning coughs are normal. Everyone breathes smoke and dust. You don't think twice about it. The bed itself? It's a curiosity. A wooden frame, usually simple, though if you live in a manor or a well-off household, it might have turned posts and carvings. The ropes beneath your mattress need tightening every so often. They sag with use. Sleep tight, they'll tell you. They mean it literally. The mattress is made from ticks, a kind of heavy linen casing stuffed with straw, chaff, or feathers. Feather beds are expensive and prone to mold. Straw mattresses need changing often. Sometimes people fill them with dried leaves or wool scraps. They crinkle and shift under your weight. Wealthy homes might layer mattresses, a bottom one with straw, a top one with feathers. Servants would turn and beat them daily. You, however, do that yourself. You lift the edge of your bedding and let the morning air in. Beds are passed down like heirlooms. A good bed frame can last generations. In some wills, they're named before land or animals. To my eldest, I leave the great bed and the feather tick. It's that serious. You check under your blanket and find the small knife still tucked beside you, just as you left it. You wrap the cord back around the handle and place it on the low table near your bed. You run your fingers over the blanket. Thick, scratchy wool, dyed with whatever your village could spare. Brown mostly, maybe a faded green or reddish hue. It smells earthy. You'll need to wash it soon, but not today. The house wakes slowly. Voices begin to rise, low at first, then clearer. Someone clatters something in the cooking hearth. A pot lid falls. A rooster crows again, more confident this time. You think about how your bed compares to others. In towns, people often sleep in narrow beds tucked behind curtains. In the countryside, beds are larger but shared. In some homes, the bed is built into the wall, a little wooden nook, almost like a cupboard. People sleep curled up, knees to chest, wrapped tight. It's not about comfort. It's about warmth. Ins. You might pay for a bed shared with a stranger or several strangers. If you're lucky, there's a curtain. If you're not, there's snoring, lice, and a misplaced elbow in your ribs by midnight. And then there are those who sleep without beds at all, on straw piles, wooden benches, even wrapped in cloaks in doorways. Sleep doesn't wait for furniture. Back in your own space, you begin the small rituals of morning. You shake out the blanket, fold it roughly, push the mattress back into shape. You tap your pillow once against the wall, just to chase out whatever might be nesting inside. It's not paranoia, it's survival. You open the window a crack. Morning light spills in, soft, gray, unfocused. You hear a cartwheel outside, crunching on gravel. A child laughing, a dog barking in the distance. And all around you, the sound of others waking up. Feet on floors, beds creaking, chamber pots being carried out. The world stretches after its long rest. You pause a moment to look back at the bed. The sheets are wrinkled. A tuft of straw pokes through one seam. It's not beautiful, but it held you. You wonder how long the straw will last before it turns sour. You wonder if the charm, stitched in the pillow, still works. You wonder if that dream meant anything. Historians are still trying to piece together how people thought about their beds in the Middle Ages. Were they places of safety? Places of vulnerability? Some treatises describe sleep as a holy retreat. Others hint at danger, temptation, or illness. A person who lingered too long in bed was sometimes seen as lazy or suspicious, but everyone, rich or poor, young or old, needed the same thing, a place to lay their head. And maybe a charm to keep bad dreams at bay. You breathe in. The air smells of ash and morning bread. Another day has begun, and tonight, when the stars return, your bed will wait for you again, quiet, lumpy, and sacred in its own way. You step carefully across the wooden floor, mindful of where others still sleep, that it's not just your bed that shapes your nights. It's the bodies around you, the quiet rhythm of shared space, the closeness of breath, the way you learn to fall asleep not in solitude, but in company. In the medieval world, Sleeping arrangements tell you everything about who someone is, what they do, what they earn, what they're worth. Privacy? That's a fantasy for the rich. For everyone else, sleep is a communal activity. You sleep where there's warmth, where there's space, where there's permission. You glance back at your own bed, shared with a sibling or perhaps a cousin visiting for the week. There's a tangle of limbs still under the blanket. A foot sticks out near the edge. You resist the urge to poke it with your toe. Let them sleep. It's early yet to eye in the next room, or maybe even in the same one. Your parents sleep on a slightly higher platform bed. It's built into the wall, with a curtain for modesty that's only drawn part of the time. Their bed has thicker blankets, the good wool. They sleep facing away from each other, like people who know what it means to work from dawn to dusk and back again. And then there's the servant, curled on a mat near the hearth, wrapped in an old cloak. He came in late, after the last chores. We're done. He didn't complain. That's where he always sleeps, that it's not strange. Not to you. Everyone sleeps where they belong. In wealthier households, the divisions are more precise. There might be a great bed in the main chamber, curtained, stuffed with feathers, high off the floor. Maybe there's a trundle bed beneath it for a child or a servant. In noble manners, the master's bed is practically a room of its own, surrounded by velvet drapes and attended to like an altar. But even there, the sleeping space is rarely private. Servants sleep nearby to stoke the fire, fetch water, help dress and undress the lord or lady. Guards doze in the hall. Wet nurses sleep beside their charges, with a hand resting gently across a tiny chest, rising and falling in the dark. It's a strange hierarchy, one where proximity often equals utility. If you're sleeping close to someone, it's because you serve a purpose in their rest. You keep them warm. You keep them safe. You keep them comfortable. Even animals have their place. Chickens roost in corners. Dogs curl near doors. A piglet might sleep beside a child for heat. No one questions it. Life and warmth are shared commodities. You pass the bench where your grandfather naps during the day. It's carved and worn smooth from decades of use. At night, he sleeps elsewhere, on a pile of skins in the back room, next to the pantry. He says it's better for his joints. Really, he just snores too loudly. Your aunt, when she visits, prefers the space beneath the stairs. She says it's quieter there. And if you look carefully, you'll find little signs of her habits. A folded shawl, a wooden comb, a sprig of dried mint for headaches. In monasteries, it's different again. The monks sleep in long rows, wooden pallets, evenly spaced. They lie in silence, facing the same direction, each with their own blanket and prayer whispered before bed. The silence is sacred, but even there, the space is shared. Historians still wonder how people truly felt about this closeness. Did it bring comfort, or did it wear them down? Was the night a time of quiet togetherness or quiet tension? You hear someone sneeze in the next room, then a cough, then the groan of a floorboard. One by one, the house begins to rise. You sit on the edge of the bed and pull your boots on, soft leather, worn but familiar. You wrap a cord around your ankle and tug it tight. Your fingers are stiff from the morning chill. Your sister grumbles from beneath the blanket, face buried in a pillow. "Did you take the warm spot?" she mumbles. You say nothing. You did. You always do. There's no judgment about shared beds. No embarrassment. Just routine. That it's not just family who share sleeping quarters, either. Travelers at inns often sleep side by side with strangers, each wrapped in their own cloak, facing away, pretending not to notice the other's breath. In busy towns, apprentices might share straw pallets in cramped lofts above the workshop. Even guards in city towers nap in shifts, one sleeping while the other watches the gates, swapping places when the hourglass runs out. You think of a friend who once stayed the night after helping thresh grain. He slept beside you on the floor, snoring so loudly you thought the rafters would collapse. But it was warm, and you both laughed about it the next day. The day will be long. It always is. There's work to do, grinding grain, mending nets, hauling buckets. You stretch and hear your back pop. It feels like something rearranged itself. Someone has lit the hearth. The scent of smoke curls through the air. The floor is still cold, but the glow is welcome. Your mother appears, hair tied back, apron already smudged. "Up," she says, though her voice is more habit than command. "The bread won't bake itself." You nod. You're already reaching. for your cloak. Before you leave the room, you glance back at the bed again. There's something about it. A simple frame, a lumpy mattress, a place that remembers your shape, a place where bodies press together not because they want to, but because it's cold and there's nowhere else to go. Later tonight, you'll return to it again. Maybe with someone different beside you. Maybe alone. Maybe the dog will sneak. And doesn't matter. It's still your bed. And in this world, that's enough. The sun has only just begun its slow climb when you step outside. Your breath clouds the air. The fields are still covered in a gray mist, and the dew clings to your boots with every step. But inside the churches, someone's already been awake. For hours that you're not heading there just yet. But you hear the faint echo of chanting from the monastery at the edge of town. The sacred hours, Matins, and lauds, have been underway since the heart of the night. The monks began their first prayers while you were in the thick of your second sleep, tucked beneath wool blankets. They were already up, lighting candles. Standing in the cold, stone choir. You head to the well, bucket in hand, listening to the quiet hush of morning. A dog barks somewhere. A rooster starts again, closer this time. The village is stirring, slowly, like a body stretching after a deep nap. But back in the monastery, the prayers are measured and steady. That's their rhythm. Divine hours carved into the night like markers in stone. You know the timing by heart, even if you don't live by it. Matins before dawn, then lauds at sunrise. Then prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, and compline. The whole day and night, segmented by devotion. You draw the water slowly, the rope rough in your palms. The cold seeps into your fingers, but it keeps you awake. You think about how different your night was from the monks. No featherbed, no shared warmth. Just silence, stone, and prayer. Some of them haven't really slept at all. A few might have dozed between services, head resting against a wooden bench, dreams tangled in scripture. You wonder how they manage it. Some say the monks train themselves to function on little sleep. Others say they nod off during the chants, hidden under the cover of the Latin syllables. Domini, labia mea aperis, one long exhale. One ancient lullaby. Historians still question how consistent these midnight prayers really were. Did everyone wake up with such devotion? Or were some monks, like you, secretly craving another hour beneath a warm blanket? You pass the baker's house and catch a whiff of rising dough. He's been up since just before dawn, starting the fires, shaping loaves, checking the coals. His hands are already dusted white with flour, and the heat of the oven clings to the stones of his doorway. He doesn't greet you, just nods, then ducks back inside. You keep walking, listening to the muffled rhythm of life returning. A door creaks open behind you. Someone empties a chamber pot into the ditch. A goat bleats. But back in your mind is the image of the monks in the dark, voices rising slowly in the choir stalls, layered and echoing through the vaulted ceiling. They chant in a language you don't fully understand, but the rhythm is familiar. It seeps into your bones like warmth. Like habit, you pass a small shrine near the edge of the road. It's barely more than a stack of stones with a wooden cross tied to it, but someone's placed a bit of ribbon on the base. A silent offering. You stop and touch your fingers lightly to your forehead. A habit. No one's watching. It still feels right. In the cities, the sacred hours are louder. Bells ring from towers, marking time in metallic clangs that slice through dreams. You remember once visiting a town where the church bells woke you again and again, each hour peeling off like a layer of sleep. By dawn, you weren't sure if you'd slept at all. Back home, it's quieter. Here, it's the voices of the monks and the rhythms of the village that keep time. Less jarring, more human. You make your way back toward the house, your bucket sloshing gently at your side. The sky has brightened into a pale blue-gray. You hear your sister arguing with someone in the yard, probably over who forgot to bring in the chickens. You smile. Some things never change. Inside, the fire's been fed, and the scent of something warm fills the air, maybe porridge. You place the water near the hearth and sit for a moment, rubbing warmth back into your fingers. Your mother's already preparing for the day. She hums softly under her breath, a tune you recognize but can't name. You glance at the door, half expecting the village priest to pass by on his morning rounds. He often walks just after lauds, checking on the sick, muttering blessings, offering advice. He's older, with a stooped back and a face like a weathered loaf of bread. but he knows every name in town, every birth, every death, and more importantly, every sleeping arrangement. He once gave a stern lecture to a young couple who'd been found napping in the same hayloft after market day. Said it invited sin, even if it was just for the warmth. People talk about that sermon like it was yesterday. The sacred hours aren't just about prayer, they're about order, structure, a way to divide the day and give it meaning. You look at your own life, divided not by bells, but by labor. The hours don't have names, but they have tasks. Morning chores, midday heat, evening meals, night's hush. It's not holy, but it's not so different either. Sleep fits into that rhythm like another kind of prayer. First sleep, midnight wakefulness. Second sleep, dawn. A pattern, a pulse. You step outside again, letting the morning air hit your face. The mist is gone now. The sky is soft and clouded, the kind of light that makes everything feel hushed. You take a deep breath. Somewhere in the distance, the last note of a chant fades into the breeze. You don't know Latin, but you know what it means. It means the day has begun. The sacred hour has passed, and sleep, like a well-kept promise, will return again when the light fades. You scratch at your neck as you walk back inside. Something got you in the night, probably a flea or two. You reach behind your shoulder and scratch again. It's not just your imagination. There's always something crawling, biting, nibbling at the edge of your sleep. That's just part of life here. You sit near the fire and pull off your tunic. The seams are stiff with salt and wear, and as you examine the collar, you spot it, tiny specks near the edge. Eggs. You sigh. Lice again. You're not surprised. Everyone has them. It's just a matter of how many. The fire crackles softly. Your fingers move on their own, scratching, picking, sweeping crumbs of ash from your sleeves. You poke at the coals with a long stick. A flicker of heat rises against your face, and with it, the sharp, sour smell of something half-burned. Maybe a bit of old bread or a sliver of meat stuck to the pan. You know you should take your bedding outside today, give it a good beating, maybe hang it in the sun. But you also know that probably won't happen. Not with work to do. Not with clouds rolling in. You glance at the ceiling. The rafters are low and blackened from years of smoke. Every time the fire flares too high, you think about it. How one stray spark could take the whole place down. You've heard stories. Whole villages lost in a night. And yet, you still sleep near the flames that it's warmer by the hearth. Even now, the stone floor radiates yesterday's heat. At night, the fire is kept low but alive. Someone, usually you, if you're unlucky, has to wake up just before dawn to stir it back to life. If it goes out, you have to borrow coals from a neighbor, carry them home wrapped in rags like a smoldering baby. That's a walk you don't want to make in the snow. You glance at the hearthstones. One still holds a ring of red, just barely alive. You feel a twinge of respect. That ember survived the night that you've never thought much about sleeping near fire. But now, in the still warmth of morning, it feels worth considering. The danger, the comfort, the balance. Historians still debate whether medieval people truly understood the risks of fire in the home, or whether they simply accepted it as another fact of life. You suspect it's both. You've seen neighbors throw damp herbs onto flames to drive off spirits and smoke out lice. You've also seen someone fall asleep too close and wake up without eyebrows. And yet, no one suggests sleeping without fire. Not in winter. Not ever. You reach for your boots, then think better of it. You check them first, tapping the toes against the floor. Once, a spider hid in there. Once was enough that you're careful not to sit too close to the hearth. Not because of burns, but because you've heard the tales. Spirits in the smoke. Shadows in the flame. A hearth is a sacred thing, but also a hungry one. You stir the pot hanging above the coals. Oats. Thin but hot. The wooden spoon is scorched at the tip. You blow on it and take a sip. It tastes like wood and patience. Someone enters behind you, probably your sister, judging by the loud sigh. She drops onto the bench with a thump and mutters something about her back. You glance at her and raise your eyebrows. The floor getting rougher? She glares at you. I think the fleas are unionizing. You both laugh. Quietly. The house is still asleep in parts. You reach into your sleeve and pull out a little cloth packet, a sachet of dried herbs. Lavender mostly. Maybe some pennyroyal. Your grandmother made it. Said it keeps the bugs away. You don't know if it works, but it smells better than your tunic. You toss it toward your sister. Here, for the cause. She sniffs it and grunts. smells like the bishop's socks, then tucks it under her sleeve anyway. Upstairs, you hear the servant moving, soft steps, cautious creaks, probably fetching kindling. He'll sleep later, if he's lucky. In a corner, wrapped in a horse blanket, you wonder how people ever slept. Well, knowing how easily fire could kill them, how quickly a blanket could catch, how one fallen candle could mean ruin. And yet, somehow, you always do sleep. Eventually, last winter, someone in the village lost their home to a chimney fire. You remember the way the roof collapsed, the heat turning the snow around the house into mud. People tried to save what they could: blankets, clothes, a wooden cradle. The rest went up in smoke. The family slept in a barn for 2 weeks. Still does, some nights. They say the hay is warmer than the floor, though no one believes them. Back in your own home, the dog has crept in again. It lies near the hearth, one paw twitching in a dream. You wonder what dogs dream about. Bones, squirrels, flea rebellions. You lean back against the wall and stretch your legs toward the heat. It's strange, this relationship with fire. You fear it. You need it. You sleep beside it knowing it could turn on you. But it also protects you from the cold, the dark, the gnawing edge of night. You glance at the ceiling again. A cobweb trembles in the heat. A part of you wants to drift off again, just for a moment. Curl up like the dog. Let the fire hum you to sleep. But there's work to do. Always. So, you rise. You brush the straw from your clothes. You toss a few more sticks onto the coals, and you promise yourself that tonight, you'll shake out the bedding. Maybe even wash the blanket. Maybe. The fire pops softly. The day stretches ahead, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you feel it already. The pull of sleep waiting on the other side of dusk. Warm, smoky, shared out a small flicker in the dark. The sun is just high enough to cast golden slants of light across the floor when you duck beneath the eaves and step into the barn. You weren't sent here to nap, but you're already thinking about it. There's something about the quiet hum of straw beneath your boots, the soft creak of beams overhead, the smell, warm, earthy, and slightly sour from animals and hay, makes you blink slowly, like a cat in a sunny window. It's early, but your body is tired. It always is. And in this world, you take rest where you can find it. You climb up into the loft, careful on the ladder. The hay's dry, piled high. You sink into it, just a little. The warmth soaks through your clothes, and for a moment, the sound of chickens fussing below fades into a kind of background murmur. You weren't planning to sleep, but now that you're up here, it suddenly seems like the only reasonable thing to do. Medieval people nap far more than most realize. It's not always called a nap. Sometimes it's just resting the eyes, or waiting for the bread to rise, or guarding the sheep. But the truth is, when your work starts before dawn and runs until dusk, you take whatever sliver of rest you can, whenever and wherever it offers itself. You lie back in the hay and let your hand dangle off the edge of the loft. Dust motes float in the sunbeams above you. You blink slowly, watching them spin like tiny spirits. People nap in corners, in chapels, in kitchens, in fields. Your uncle used to fall asleep sitting up, spoon in hand, bowl still steaming. He once dozed off mid-sentence while sharpening a sickle. You're pretty sure he even snored during Mass once, but no one had the courage to confirm it. There's a legend in your village about a priest who fell asleep mid-sermon, dreamed of a golden stairway, and woke convinced he'd been given a vision. They built a bench for him behind the pulpit, just in case it ever happened again. Historians have long debated how sleep worked for medieval workers. Did they really sleep in long, uninterrupted blocks at night? Or were their nights broken by chores, prayer, and the occasional emergency goat rescue? Did naps fill the gaps between exhaustion and obligation? You think the answer is obvious. You hear someone below, the crunch of footsteps on the barn floor. You stay still, not because you're hiding, exactly, but because if you don't move, they might think you're on some serious business. Important. Hayloft work. The footsteps pass. You smile. The loft is one of many secret nap spots you've discovered over the years. There's also the pew in the chapel, third row from the back, where the wood dips just enough to cradle your spine. The space behind the oven, where it stays warm long after the fire's out. And, of course, under the market stalls, if you don't mind the smell of cabbages. Children nap wherever they fall, on benches, under tables, in the shade of wagons. Old folks, too, nod off mid-conversation, their mouths going slack as their heads tilt gently to the side, and no one really blames them. You watch the sunlight drift along the rafters. Some say sleep is sacred. Others say it's lazy. But you? You think it's just necessary. Especially when you don't know when the next chance will come. People make rules about who can sleep where. Servants don't nap in the master's chair. Apprentices don't lie down in the middle of the floor. But there are loopholes. There's always the "I'm just resting my back" excuse. Or the "I'm guarding this corner" defense. Or the classic, "the baby needed someone to lie down with her." That one works every time. The hay shifts beneath you. You adjust. Your weight and sigh. It's not exactly comfortable. It scratches at your neck and sneaks down the back of your tunic. But it's warm, and that counts for a lot. You let your eyes close, just for a second. People dream differently in naps. The sleep is lighter, closer to the edge of waking. You've had dreams in the hay that felt more like memories, or warnings, or nonsense. One time, you dreamed of a fish talking in Latin. You woke up convinced it meant something. You never figured out what. You open your eyes again, slowly. No one's come looking for you yet. Good sign. You remember the story your cousin told about a mason who built a church wall wrong because he was half asleep on the scaffold. They say the wall leans just a little to this day, and you can still see the curve if the light hits it right. And there was the girl who claimed she dreamed of her future husband while dozing beneath a tree on May Day. She married a pig farmer. No one talks about the tree anymore. You yawn and stretch one leg, foot brushing a tuft of straw. You think about falling fully asleep, but you know you can't stay long. Not if you want to avoid being pulled into chores with a bucket in each hand. Still, it's tempting. You wonder if monks ever napped in odd places. Did they curl up on benches between prayers? Did they sleep in the library, head resting on a manuscript, dreams filled with ink and candle wax? Did kings sneak naps behind tapestries, hidden from courtiers and boredom? One day, you'll find the perfect nap. The softest hay, the warmest patch of sun, the most blissful, uninterrupted moment. You're sure of it, but not today. You sit up slowly, brushing hay from your sleeves, neck, and hair. You pull a stalk from your boot. It tickles your ankle. You climb down the ladder, each rung creaking under your weight. The light is brighter now, the air warmer. You step back into the day, blinking against the sun. Your nap never quite happened, but the promise of it was enough to carry you through. And that's the trick to medieval rest. You grab the edges, the corners, the scraps of sleep, and tuck them into your day like folded notes. Even if it's just 10 minutes in a hayloft. Even if the fish keeps speaking Latin. The sun is just high enough to cast golden slants of light across the floor when you duck beneath the eaves and step into the barn. You weren't sent here to nap, but you're already thinking about it. There's something about the quiet hum of straw beneath your boots, the soft creak of beams overhead, the smell, warm, earthy, and slightly sour from animals and hay, makes you blink slowly, like a cat in a sunny window. It's early, but your body is tired. It always is. And in this world, you take rest where you can find it. You climb up into the loft, careful on the ladder. The hay's dry, piled high. You sink into it, just a little. The warmth soaks through your clothes, and for a moment, the sound of chickens fussing below fades into a kind of background murmur. You weren't planning to sleep, but now that you're up here, it suddenly seems like the only reasonable thing to do. Medieval people nap far more than most realize. It's not always called a nap. Sometimes it's just resting the eyes, or waiting for the bread to rise, or guarding the sheep. But the truth is, when your work starts before dawn and runs until dusk, you take whatever sliver of rest you can, whenever and wherever it offers itself. You lie back in the hay and let your hand dangle off the edge of the loft. Dust motes float in the sunbeams above you. You blink slowly, watching them spin like tiny spirits. People nap in corners, in chapels, in kitchens, in fields. Your uncle used to fall asleep sitting up, spoon in hand, bowl still steaming. He once dozed off mid-sentence while sharpening a sickle. You're pretty sure he even snored during Mass once, but no one had the courage to confirm it. There's a legend in your village about a priest who fell asleep mid-sermon, dreamed of a golden stairway, and woke convinced he'd been given a vision. They built a bench for him behind the pulpit, just in case it ever happened again. Historians have long debated how sleep worked for medieval workers. Did they really sleep in long, uninterrupted blocks at night? Or were there nights broken by chores, prayer, and the occasional emergency goat rescue? Did naps fill the gaps between exhaustion and obligation? You think the answer is obvious. You hear someone below, the crunch of footsteps on the barn floor. You stay still, not because you're hiding, exactly, but because if you don't move, they might think you're on some serious business. Important. Hayloft work, the footsteps pass. You smile. The loft is one of many secret nap spots you've discovered over the years. There's also the pew in the chapel, third row from the back, where the wood dips just enough to cradle your spine. The space behind the oven, where it stays warm long after the fire's out. And, of course, under the market stalls, if you don't mind the smell of cabbages. Children nap wherever they fall, on benches, under tables, in the shade of wagons. Old folks, too, nod off mid-conversation, their mouths going slack as their heads tilt gently to the side, and no one really blames them. You watch the sunlight drift along the rafters. Some say sleep is sacred. Others say it's lazy. But you? You think it's just necessary. Especially when you don't know when the next chance will come. People make rules about who can sleep where. Servants don't nap in the master's chair. Apprentices don't lie down in the middle of the floor. But there are loopholes. There's always the "I'm just resting my back" excuse. Or the "I'm guarding this corner" defense. Or the classic, the baby needed someone to lie down with her. That one works every time. The hay shifts beneath you. You adjust. Your weight and sigh. It's not exactly comfortable. It scratches at your neck and sneaks down the back of your tunic. But it's warm, and that counts for a lot. You let your eyes close, just for a second. People dream differently in naps. The sleep is lighter, closer to the edge of waking. You've had dreams in the hay that felt more like memories, or warnings, or nonsense. One time, you dreamed of a fish talking in Latin. You woke up convinced it meant something. You never figured out what. You open your eyes again, slowly. No one's come looking for you yet. Good sign. You remember the story your cousin told about a mason who built a church wall wrong because he was half asleep on the scaffold. They say the wall leans just a little to this day, and you can still see the curve if the light hits it right. And there was the girl who claimed she dreamed of her future husband while dozing beneath a tree on May Day. She married a pig farmer. No one talks about the tree anymore. You yawn and stretch one leg, foot brushing a tuft of straw. You think about falling fully asleep, but you know you can't stay long. Not if you want to avoid being pulled into chores with a bucket in each hand. Still, it's tempting. You wonder if monks ever napped in odd places. Did they curl up on benches between prayers? Did they sleep in the library, head resting on a manuscript, dreams filled with ink and candle wax? Did kings sneak naps behind tapestries, hidden from courtiers and boredom? One day, you'll find the perfect nap, the softest hay, the warmest patch of sun, the most blissful, uninterrupted moment. You're sure of it, but not today. You sit up slowly, brushing hay from your sleeves, neck, and hair. You pull a stalk from your boot. It tickles your ankle. You climb down the ladder, each rung creaking under your weight. The light is brighter now, the air warmer. You step back into the day, blinking against the sun. Your nap never quite happened, but the promise of it was enough to carry you through. And that's the trick to medieval rest. You grab the edges, the corners, the scraps of sleep, and tuck them into your day like folded notes. Even if it's just 10 minutes in a hayloft. Even if the fish keeps speaking Latin. You walk through the village with a slow, steady pace, feeling the familiar weight of the day beginning to settle across your shoulders. The cobblestones are warm beneath your soles. Someone is baking, again, and the smell of bread hits you, like a soft pillow to the face. You inhale, deeply. For a moment, the world seems quiet. The sun hangs low, slipping into that golden stretch of afternoon where everything feels like it's thinking about resting, but hasn't quite committed. Your body agrees. You're not ready for bed, not yet, but you are ready for something to stretch. A sigh, a place to curl, just briefly, like a cat in a windowsill. And that's when you start thinking about beds. Now, in your modern life, a bed probably means something plush. Something designed with memory foam, maybe a cooling layer and an ad jingle. But here, back in your little medieval life, it's something more humble. And also stranger. Your bed is a wooden frame, if you're lucky. More often than not, it's just a box filled with straw, feathers if you're wealthy, maybe moss or scraps of wool if you're not. There are ropes strung across the base to hold it all together. That's where the phrase "sleep tight" comes from. You tighten the ropes to keep the bedding from sagging that you've done it before, tugging them taut until your palms ached. The mattress, if you can call it that, isn't exactly plush. It smells faintly of grass and sweat and time. It creaks. It pokes. But it's yours, or maybe not. You turn down a narrow lane where one household spills into the next. Doors are left open. Chickens dart between thresholds. Here, privacy is a luxury no one can afford. Most people share sleeping spaces. Parents, children, grandparents. Occasionally, a stranger or a sick cousin or someone just passing through. Beds are not individual spaces. They are family spaces. Shared warmth, shared stories, shared snoring. And if you're a servant, you probably don't even get that. You might sleep on a bench, or beside the hearth, or in a storeroom on a pile of sacks. One girl you know sleeps in the pantry, curled between the pickling jars. Says she dreams of vinegar that you've done your time sleeping in odd corners. The one behind the stairs still makes your shoulder ache just thinking about it. And in winter? Oh, winter is a different beast entirely. That's when everyone starts sleeping closer. Bodies clump together for warmth. Kids, goats, and the occasional chicken all end up in the same room. It's not glamorous, but it beats freezing your toes off in a drafty hallway. You remember one winter night when your cousin's dog curled so tightly against your back that you couldn't move for hours. You named the cramp after him. Still, there's no central heating, obviously. Just the fire, and only if someone remembers to stoke it. The walls are thin. The wind comes in sideways. Some people hang tapestries just to keep the cold from sneaking in like a nosy neighbor. But there's something else about medieval beds. Something less cozy, something a little darker, because beds aren't just for sleep. They're where people are born, where they get sick, where they whisper secrets, where they die. Your grandmother died in that bed by the wall. The one with the cracked leg and the burn mark from the candle someone knocked over during prayers. You remember sitting beside it, holding her hand, listening to her breathe slower and slower, until even the wind outside seemed to pause. Historians still wonder how people in the Middle Ages understood sleep, sickness, and death, all tangled together in the same soft, sagging spaces. Some thought dreams were messages from the divine. Others feared them, believing that spirits could enter your mouth while you slept. People tied herbs to their bedposts, carved crosses into the beams, left shoes turned backward at the foot of the bed to confuse lurking demons. And don't even get started on sleep paralysis. You had it once, a few winters ago. Woke up frozen, heart racing, eyes wide, breath shallow. You couldn't move. You couldn't speak. And hovering just out of sight, something. You couldn't say what. You told the old woman in the next cottage. She nodded solemnly and said you were probably being sat on by a night hag. You haven't slept facing the door since. Still, you try not to be too superstitious. Your bed is mostly safe. It squeaks. It smells. It's full of hay that occasionally pokes you in the ribs. But it's homed as the sun dips lower. You turn toward the fields. The path is lined with lavender and nettles. You pass a small hut, with smoke curling from the chimney. Inside, you catch a glimpse of someone turning down the covers, a hand smoothing wrinkled linen, fluffing a sad, flat pillow. There's a kind of ritual to it. You do it too, most nights. Shake out the bedding. Make sure no mice have taken up residence. Tuck your pouch of dried herbs, sage, if you're lucky, under the edge of your blanket. Some people even whisper prayers before sleep. Not grand ones, just soft words for protection, for dreams, for rest that doesn't leave you more tired than you began. You reach your own home just as the sky turns dusky. The shadows stretch long, lazy fingers across the floor. You step inside and close the door gently behind you. There, in the corner, is your bed. Waiting, you cross the room slowly, letting your fingers trail across the table, the wall, the rough linen of your shirt. You sit down with a creak and a sigh, boots thudding softly to the floor. You lie back. The hay rustles beneath you. A moth flutters by, bouncing once against the shuttered window. You stare up at the ceiling and listen to the house settle, timbers creaking, the fire exhaling its last breath for the night. You pull the blanket higher and let your eyes begin to close. Your bed may be simple, uneven, occasionally haunted, but it is yours. You stir just a little, not quite asleep, not quite awake. There's a faint noise somewhere outside, maybe a dog barking, maybe just the wind nudging the shutters like an impatient guest. Your eyes flutter open. It's dark now. Properly dark, and this is where the strangeness begins. Because in the medieval world, sleep doesn't happen in one neat block. You don't lie down, snore like a log for 8 hours, then wake up refreshed. No, you sleep in two parts. It's called segmented sleep. First, sleep, then waking, then second sleep. And right now, you are floating in that hazy stretch between the two. It's not unnatural. It's normal. Expected, even. You've done it so many times, you could sleepwalk through it. Though hopefully, you don't. Outside. The village is hushed, but not silent. A few doors creak open. Someone coughs. A chamber pot clinks. You hear footsteps padding quietly past your window, bare feet on packed earth. Someone else is awake too. Probably half the village is. They might not talk about it much, but everyone slips into that middle wakefulness now and then. In this in-between time, the world feels strange. Tilted, dreamy, but also focused. You sit up in bed. The fire has dwindled to coals. The room smells of ash and wool and warm-breathed. There's something almost magical about this hour. People use it differently. Some pray, some read, if they're lucky enough to have a candle and something worth reading. Some do other things. You glance over at the blanket your neighbors are very pointedly sharing. Enough said. Others just lie still, staring into the dark, letting their minds unspool slowly like yarn from an old skein. You've done that so many times, just listening to the wood settle, thinking about the bread you need to bake in the morning, wondering if that one roof beam is going to leak again when it rains. You rub your eyes. Your body is heavy, but your mind is oddly alert. As if waking up in the middle of the night somehow sharpens your thoughts. You remember once hearing a tinker say that ideas come best in the watching hours, that space between dreams and chores. You weren't sure if he meant it, or if he just liked walking around at midnight and pretending to be wise. Still, there's something to it. Historians today still debate how common this segmented sleep was. Some believe it was widespread across Europe. Others think it varied by region, season, or social class. What's clear is that lots of people, peasants, monks, even nobility, talked about it in letters, in diaries, in the odd whispered complaint. Over a morning mug of ale, you scratch your head and slide your feet to the floor. The cold jolts you upright. You fumble for your cloak, wrap it around your shoulders, and tiptoe to the door. Outside, the sky is dark but clear. Stars speckle the black like grains of salt tossed across velvet. A crescent moon hangs low, smug, and sleepy. It's quiet, but not dead. You spot a woman lighting a candle through her window. A soft orange glow paints the wall behind her. She's probably winding yarn, or checking on a feverish child, or maybe just awake, like you'd a couple of boys crouched by the bread oven down the path, whispering loudly and giggling. One shushes the other, who is clearly trying not to laugh with a mouth full of stolen crust. You smile. The night is not as still as it pretends. You walk a few steps into the yard. Your breath makes clouds. Somewhere an owl hoots. A fox screams, sharp and sudden, and then silence again. In this space between sleeps, you feel unmoored. It's not unpleasant, just floaty, like you could drift sideways into a dream without anyone noticing. People used to believe the veil between worlds was thinner in these hours, that dreams could slip out and walk among the living, that ghosts visited, that your soul wandered. Point 1. Old woman once told you never to speak aloud during second waking, or your words might follow you into your dreams and turn sour. She also told you carrots could summon fertility. So, grain of salt. Still, there's something about this hour. It feels borrowed. Not yours, not quite. But you're here anyway. Upright, barefoot, thinking strange thoughts under a sky full of cold stars. You make your way back inside, brushing the door closed behind you. Your bed still holds the imprint of your body. The haze shifted a bit. You shake the blanket once and climb back in. The quiet returns. You stare at the ceiling and breathe. This space between first and second sleep is a little gift. A crack in the routine. A chance to reset your thoughts. To sift through the leftover noise of the day. You think about the conversation by the well. The look the baker gave you. The way the bread puffed too much on one side. Useless thoughts. Wandering thoughts. But also soothing. Outside, a cock crows too early. Maybe he's confused. Maybe he's part of this secret club of nighttime half-dreamers. You smile and roll to your side. Second sleep is coming. Your body knows it. Your bones know it. Soon, you'll slide back under. Not like a plunge, more like drifting in with the tide. You've always found second sleep deeper, thicker, less anxious, fewer dreams. Just that long, slow sinking into something soft and quiet. You close your eyes, let your breathing slow. Feel your heartbeat settle. There's no rush that you'll wake again. When the sky begins to blue, when the smoke rises again from the chimneys, when the first door creaks open and the sound of chickens flapping fills the street. But for now, here, in the fold between darkness and dawn, you are weightless, untethered, and very, very tired. When you wake, the sky is already smeared with pale gray. Not quite morning, not quite night, just that soft, in-between light where everything looks a little sleep-drunk. You blink, slow and heavy, and take a moment to remember where you are. Not because you've gone anywhere, but because sleep, especially second sleep, tends to stretch your sense of time like taffy. You sit up, the air has cooled. The hearth is nothing but a faint, ashy shadow. Your limbs feel sluggish, like you've been underwater. But in a good way, you rub your eyes and stretch. Something pops in your back, and you groan like a much older person than you technically are. But you're awake. More or less. The house is quiet. No one's moving yet, though a rooster across the lane is making an aggressive case for someone to feed him. You swing your legs out of bed and notice the light filtering through the shutter. Cracks. It's thin and silver. A foggy morning, maybe. You can already smell the damp in the wood. There's a rhythm to medieval mornings, and it starts slow. No phones buzzing. No espresso machines hissing. Just a slow coming to life. House by house, person by person, and yet, before the sun has fully risen, the streets are already stirring. You step outside, barefoot again. The earth is cool and wet under your feet. The fog curls around your knees. Someone down the lane is already chopping wood. The steady thwack, thwack, thwack feels a little too ambitious for this hour. A nearby door creaks open. A child stumbles out, blinking against the mist. He yawns so hard he nearly tips over. His mother follows, a bundle of herbs under one arm and a half-plucked chicken under the other. She nods to you like this is just how people look at sunrise. Frizzy, grim, and vaguely haunted. You nod back, equally frizzy and haunted. This is the third sleep-related moment in 24 hours. And you're not done yet, because medieval sleep wasn't just about what happened in bed. It was also about the naps. Oh yes, the humble, glorious, much maligned nap. People napped a lot. Afternoon siestas weren't some exotic import. They were survival, especially in the warmer months, when midday heat made work unbearable. Around noon, the entire village would slow down. Tools set aside, ovens cooled, markets grew quiet. And you? You found a patch of shade, or a quiet bench, or just a corner of the stable that didn't smell too much like horses, and you dozed, not deeply, not like second sleep, but enough to dull the edge of the day. Even now, you know the best napping spots in town. There's a little rise behind the chapel, where the grass is soft and the sun hits your back just right. There's a nook beside the mill, half hidden behind a barrel of grain. And if all else fails, your friend lets you nap in her pig shed, as long as you don't mind the grunting. Not glamorous, but oddly peaceful. Some monks even built naps into their daily schedules. After long hours of prayer, they'd rest in short bursts, sometimes while sitting up, which frankly sounds like a chiropractor's nightmare. Historians wonder if napping was a necessity or a choice. Was it about rest? About avoiding the heat? Or just about staving off the crushing boredom of afternoons where the most exciting thing might be watching dough rise? You suspect it's all three. That you've had naps so satisfying you woke up unsure of the year, and others where you barely closed your eyes before someone yelled about a missing chicken or a firewood emergency. Either way, the nap is sacred, quiet, unspoken. You don't schedule it. You just feel it creeping in behind your eyes, heavy and warm like honey. You remember one summer when it was too hot to sleep indoors. Everyone dragged their bedding outside. It looked like a strange little fair, with people curled in blankets under the stars, swatting mosquitoes and muttering about dew. You shared a blanket with a boy who smelled like bread. Nothing came of it, but it was a good nap. There's something profoundly human about dozing off beside someone, knowing they might wake before you. knowing you trust them not to draw on your face or steal your shoes. Most of the time, anyway, you head back inside and stoke the fire. It catches slowly, little blue flames licking at the kindling. The smoke curls up the chimney with a sigh. You sit beside it, elbows on knees, eyes half-lidded. This isn't sleep, exactly, but it's close. A liminal rest. The kind where you stare into the fire long enough to forget what you were thinking about. Outside, the fog begins to lift. You hear someone yawn loudly through an open window. Another neighbor muttering something about those geese again. Life is returning. The day is beginning. You'll need to gather herbs. Check the well. Mend that hole in your tunic that keeps letting in the breeze. But for now, just a few minutes more. Sitting in the hush, letting the warmth of the fire reach your toes. You wonder, did people in the past enjoy these moments? Or did they take them for granted? Maybe both. Maybe that's what sleep has always been. Part need, part escape, part rebellion against the ticking of the world. You lean your head against the wall. The stone is cool. The fire crackles, and you breathe. Tomorrow, maybe you'll nap by the river. Maybe you'll dream of something strange. Or nothing at all. Maybe you'll just sit in the sun and let the world turn without you for a little while. The day stretches out before you, wide and ordinary. You've eaten. You've done your morning chores. You've mended 2 things, broken 1, and avoided at least 3 conversations with people who only talk about turnips. The sun is high now, balancing right overhead, casting short shadows and warming the backs of your arms as you stand by the well, and you're tired, not exhausted. Not dramatic fainting tired, just gently worn, because the truth is medieval. Life isn't exactly designed for rest. There's no ergonomic seating, no soft slippers, no long commute where you can nap on the way. Everything you do takes effort, even the things that shouldn't, like standing, or thinking, or trying to remember if you left that bucket outside last night. So, yes, you're tired. And this is where things get interesting. Because tiredness, in the medieval world, wasn't just physical. It was spiritual, too. There's a word, ****, a strange, slippery little term that crops up in monastic texts and contemplative writings. It doesn't mean laziness, not exactly. It's more like a weariness of the soul, a deep, heavy fog that settles over the mind during long hours of repetition and silence. Monks feared it. They called it the noonday demon. You get it? There's something about the middle of the day that invites a kind of soft despair. You've done a little, but not enough. There's more to do, but no urgency. The sun stands still, and time feels like honey sliding down a wall. You felt that pull. That urge to curl up under the table, or behind the woodpile, or wherever the world feels furthest away. Not to escape, really. Just to pause. You lean against the side of the well, the stones warm against your back. Someone walks past with a bundle of firewood and nods. You nod back, eyes squinting against the light. Then, with practiced indifference, you slip away. You know the spots. Everyone does. The tucked-away corners where no one bothers you. Behind the chapel, under the willow, by the stream. Even the empty grain bin, when it's clean and doesn't smell like spoiled oats, you find your place. A small patch of sun-dappled earth beneath a lean-to. You settle in. It's not soft. It's not private. But it's quiet. And that's enough. You lie back, arms behind your head, and let the sun press gently on your eyelids. Your thoughts slow. Your breathing evens out. This is not official sleep. No one announces it. No one gives you permission, but your body knows what to do. Your mind flickers through fragments, half dreams and leftovers. The sound of grain sifting, the smell of yeast, a string of words you heard earlier and can't place. You don't fight it. You let it wash over you. Nap, reset, reboot. It's a strange thing how much people today fight sleep. Brag about skipping it. Fear it, even. But here, in this slow and dusty life, sleep is just a normal part of the rhythm. A little pause between beats, you drift, you snore. A little a bee buzzes too close, and you bat it away without opening your eyes. There are theories, modern ones, that segmented sleep and afternoon naps might be closer to our natural state than the rigid 8-hour ideal. That we've been trained out of our body's real preferences. That maybe your ancestors had it more right than wrong. Historians are still debating it, but honestly, you're not thinking about theories right now. You're asleep. Only for 20. Minutes. Maybe 30. When you stir again, the world has shifted. The light is warmer, softer. The angle of the shadows tells you it's later than you expected. You blink, stretch, and sit up slowly. A piece of straw clings to your sleeve. There's a dull ache in your hip from the way you twisted, but overall, you feel better. Not perfect, but better. You walk back into the lane like you didn't just vanish for half an hour. Nobody asks. Nobody cares. Napping isn't shameful. Here, it's just another way of managing the long, uneven rhythm of the day. You pass by the cooper, whose hammering rings onto a barrel and humming tunelessly. He pauses to scratch his neck and yawn. You know that look. He'll find a nap spot soon, too. Back at home, there's bread to knead, herbs to sort, and that stupid tunic to finish patching. But none of it feels overwhelming. Not now, you're little. Naps smooth the edges of the day. There's something almost luxurious about it. Not in the silk pillow, goose down kind of way, but in the you had time kind of way. You were allowed to rest, even just briefly. The world didn't end. The chores are still here. The chickens are still loud. But you were allowed to pause. You wonder how many people, even now, still dream of lives where that's possible. You stir the fire, fold your cloak, and glance at the sky. There's a softness to the light now, a goldenness that hints at the slow approach of evening. Soon, the village will change again. Soon, the second wave of tiredness will creep in. Not the dreamy, dazed fog of early morning. Not the noonday droop. This next one is different. It's the good kind of tired. The one that comes after work, when the body is worn in a way that feels earned. When your muscles ache, but your mind feels still. When the light fades and the day begins to fold itself up like a piece of parchment that you're not quite there yet, but it's coming. You gather your tools, brush the dust from your knees and head. Inside, there's still a little light left. Enough to finish what needs finishing, and then it'll be time for sleep again. You smile at the thought, because you've come to appreciate this part of life. The slow rise, the sudden wakefulness, the naps stolen in strange places, the odd, dreamy drift between first and second sleep. The layered, looping rhythm of medieval rest. Messy, inconsistent, but deeply human. Evening comes in quietly, almost politely. There's no loud announcement, no clanging of bells or dramatic shifts. Just a slow softening. The sky cools to a dusty blue. The sun pulls its long golden fingers back behind the treetops, and the birds begin to trade their chirps for slower, more thoughtful sounds. You're inside, sitting on a bench that's slightly uneven, watching the way the light from the window drips onto the floor like honey. There's something about this hour that feels private, even when you're not alone. Like the world is exhaling in unison. The hard edges of the day blur. The sharpness softens. Everything tilts toward rest. You're finishing the last of the day's tasks, stacking wood, tucking in tools, hanging the herbs you gathered earlier to dry above the hearth. Your hands move automatically, the motion smooth from repetition. You're not rushing. There's no race, just a gentle slide toward the end of the day. The others in the house have begun to settle. A pot is warming over the fire, vegetable stew again. No one complains. Hunger keeps expectations simple. You sit by the fire after dinner, stretching your legs toward the heat. Someone starts humming a tune with no lyrics, and no one asks them to stop. It just feels right. The sound wraps around the room like smoke. And then the yawning begins one by one, slowly at first, and then in waves. Heads nod. Eyes flutter. The fire dims to a low orange pulse. Someone's already curled up in the corner with a blanket made from scratchy wool and stubborn love. You lie down again on your makeshift bedding. The straw-stuffed mattress groans slightly under your weight. The smell of smoke and onion soup lingers on your clothes. But you're used to it now. It's home. You close your eyes, and the silence begins. Except, it doesn't, because the night in a medieval town isn't truly quiet. It's just differently noisy. A dog barks somewhere in the distance. A horse snorts. A board creaks in the ceiling. Wind pushes gently at the shutters. A baby whimpers, quieted quickly by its mother's rhythmic whisper. Sleep comes, eventually. But here's the thing no one tells you. There's always a moment, just before drifting off, when you're not sure if it's real sleep or just wishing. You float, and then you land, but not for long. Because tonight, like most nights, sleep is a two-part show, and soon enough, you wake again. That familiar half hour of nothing. No dreams, No thoughts, just slow breathing. Ins. Your eyes crack open. Your body, unsure whether to rise or not, hovers in the middle. The fire has collapsed into faint, glowing bones. You're awake. And here comes second sleep. You don't fight it. You sit up briefly. Stretch. Scratch your leg. Sip some water from the jug near the bed. Someone else in the room coughs softly. Another rolls over with a groan. Some people use this in between time. Get up, walk around, say a prayer or two, check on the animals. Even on rare and scandalous occasions, visit a neighbor. You stay where you are. You let your thoughts wander. Some nights, you remember old stories told by your grandmother, legends of dream visions and prophetic sleep. Other times, you wonder if the moonlight has always looked this bright, or if you're imagining it. Tonight, your brain drifts somewhere stranger. You think about dreams, not just the ones you have, but the ones people believed meant something. Back then, dreams were considered windows, portals, warnings. That strange one you had last week, where you were digging in the snow for a goose wearing a crown. Yeah, that probably meant something. At least according to half the villagers, and one particularly intense baker who swears he can read dreams like letters from God. That there's a kind of intimacy to sleep that people don't talk about enough. How it strips away the masks. How it leaves you defenseless, vulnerable, honest that you've shared beds with friends, siblings, even strangers during storms or feast days when the house was too full. And every time, the rhythm of another person sleeping beside you, their breath, their twitching fingers, the little noises they make, made you feel weirdly safe. Connected in a way that daylight rarely allows. You lie back down. Outside, the stars shift position. A cloud drifts over the moon, and the room darkens just slightly, enough to make you blink again, and then sleep returns. This time, deeper, heavier. Your breathing slows. Your jaw relaxes. Your hands stop fidgeting. This is second sleep in full, not a nap, not the startled collapse of exhaustion, but a slow, sweet descent into the part of the night where time bends, where hours pass like minutes, and minutes stretch like hours, where dreams get stranger and more colorful, where the line between memory and fantasy gets a little fuzzy. There are theories about this kind of sleep. Some historians argue it was the norm for thousands of years, that the industrial age, with its clocks and shifts and electric lights, crushed our natural rhythm into something rigid and unkind. That maybe you, right now, would be sleeping better if you could wake in the middle of the night and not panic about it. Others push back, say it's romanticizing the past, that people woke up because they were cold or uncomfortable or afraid, not because their bodies wanted to. Historians still wonder if segmented sleep was a universal experience, or just a common one. But here's what you know. Lying in this darkened room, the fire dying beside you, the breath of others moving in and out like tide, you don't feel broken. You feel like part of something older, something rooted. Sleep doesn't feel like a retreat. It feels like a ritual, like a rhythm that carries you forward, then lets you drift back again. The night is long, but it's kind. It's early, so early that the birds haven't quite agreed to wake up yet. The stars are still hanging on, faint and flickering, like guests who won't leave even though the music stopped hours ago. You stir beneath your blanket, breathing in air that's gone cool overnight, tasting the faint must of straw, smoke, and your own sleep-heavy breath. No one else is moving yet. You sit up slowly, rubbing your eyes, listening. The world is whispering. Floorboards creak as the wood cools. Ash crumbles in the hearth. Somewhere nearby, a rooster clears its throat, unsure whether it's time to crow. You move through the room with soft, careful steps. Your cloak brushes against the table as you pass. You open the door slowly, letting the first gray light of the day spill over your face like river water. The morning is still more dream than day. You step outside, wrapping the cloak tighter, and feel the damp earth beneath your soles. The air holds a chill, not cruel, just enough to wake your skin. There's something sacred about this hour, not because it's peaceful or mystical, but because it belongs to no one. The world hasn't started yet. The day hasn't made demands. Time feels loose, soft, like dough before it rises. You stretch, arms overhead, bones clicking quietly. You feel the ache of sleep in your joints, but also the clarity that comes with the end of a long, two-part rest. Your mind isn't racing. It's meandering. The stars finally give up, fading behind pale clouds. The sky lightens to silver. You hear the distant clatter of a bucket, the soft bleat of a sheep, and then, finally, the rooster decides it's time that you're not the only one awake anymore. The village breathes in together, and the day begins. But even as people stir, pulling on tunics, tossing water on the hearth, you feel something else humming underneath. A kind of leftover quiet. A thread that links last night's sleep with this morning's stillness, that it's that space in between. The threadbare edge between dream and waking. And it's surprisingly busy. See, sleep isn't just personal in the medieval world. It's social. Beds are shared. Walls are thin. Lives overlap. And as the day stirs to life, people talk about what happened in the night. Who snored? Who dreamt? Who walked outside and saw something strange in the sky? You join the others by the hearth, now crackling gently back to life. Someone is grinding oats. Someone else is already complaining about a sore back. But the conversation, soft, half-formed, is all about dreams. One person dreamt of a falling tower. Another saw her grandmother handing her a red apple. A boy insists he flew over the village with wings made of bread. Everyone nods, like this is the most normal thing in the world. And it is, because dreams aren't just nonsense here. They mattered. They're warnings, signs, puzzles. They're gossip fodder. They're spiritual commentary. Sometimes even legal evidence, if someone swears strongly enough. Dream interpretation isn't a fringe hobby. It's a part of life. Old women specialize in it. They can hear a dream and tell you what herb to carry, or what prayer to say, or who you definitely shouldn't talk to for the next 3 days. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're terrifyingly wrong. But everyone listens. You remember your dream. Sort of a field, a spinning wheel, a voice you knew, but couldn't place. You keep that one to yourself. Not because it's shameful, but because it's yours. Not every dream needs to be laid out like laundry. Some are meant to be carried quietly, tucked inside your chest like a smooth stone. Someone hands you a bit of oatcake, warm and crumbling. You eat it slowly as the room brightens. There's something deeply satisfying about this morning rhythm, that you've slept, that you've dreamed, that you've listened, and now you begin again. Sleep, for you, is no longer just the blank space between days. It's become a kind of marker, a slow reset, a quiet teacher that you're learning to respect it. Not command it, not conquer it, but work with it. There's a phrase you overheard once, spoken by a traveling friar. To sleep well is to remember the body is wise. You didn't fully get it then, but you do now, because your body, in its own strange rhythms, knows how to navigate these medieval nights. How to dip into rest, rise into wakefulness, and slip back again. How to claim a nap when it's needed. How to stretch the morning gently open, like a loaf left to rise. The day begins in earnest now. Voices rise. Feet stomp. A goat gets loose and immediately regrets it. But even as life ramps up, something about you stays quieter. A little more rooted. You've survived another medieval night, that you've slipped through its shadows and stillness. And you've woken up better for it. You toss the last crumbs of your oatcake to a hopeful chicken, and she pecks them up with the focus of someone doing sacred work. You smile. Stretch again. Your muscles complain, but not too loudly. Behind you, someone's already asking where the hammer is. Someone else needs help with the cart, but you take one more moment. One more breath. The kind that fills your lungs completely. The kind that reminds you this isn't a race. That you are allowed to move slowly. To sleep. To wake. To begin again. Section 15. You lean against the doorway for a moment longer, watching the morning take full hold of the village. It spreads like butter, slow, warm, familiar. You can hear a mill turning somewhere beyond the fields, its rhythm steady, dependable. Chickens peck near your feet, their scratchy feet disturbing bits of straw. Everything smells faintly of smoke, soil, and the promise of something being baked. There's no real moment when the day starts in a medieval village. It just continues. It spills forward from sleep like water over a gentle slope. The night didn't really end. It just softened into day. And while everyone else is sweeping, fixing, stirring, or calling to each other across the yards, you pause to think. What really happened last night? Sure, there were the usual dreams, the aches from a shared mattress, the sharp creak of a timber above your head. But there was also something quieter, something under the surface, The old rhythms of sleep are still vibrating through your bones. Second sleep, first waking, the fragile hush between the two. These are the moments you're beginning to treasure. They're not weird. They're not broken. They're human. It's easy now to see how the darkness shaped the way people lived and slept. There was no flicking on a lamp, no buzzing blue glow of a screen. You had firelight, moonlight, and silence. And maybe, just maybe, that silence wasn't empty. It was full of breath, of dreams, of small sounds that mattered. A thud in the wall, a whispered prayer, the wind pressing softly on the door, and the longer you think about it, the more you realize nobody back then expected sleep to be easy or fast or perfect. They knew it came in waves, that it was finicky, like sourdough, or stubborn donkeys, and so they worked with it. They let the night unfold in stages, let the body decide when it needed to rise, walk, pray, or slip back into dream. You remember a story one of the older villagers told you about a monk who used to rise halfway through his sleep to walk barefoot through the cold chapel, muttering Latin under his breath, never once using a candle. Said it made the prayer stronger if he could feel the stones beneath his feet. That you're not that monk, but part of you gets it. There's a clarity to the dark, a strange wisdom that only shows up when everyone else is asleep and you're left alone with your thoughts, your breath, and the low crackle of dying embers. In those moments, the world feels a little less noisy, a little more honest. Maybe that's what we've lost. Not just the segmented sleep, but the slowness that came with it, the space to breathe between waking and resting, the permission to be half asleep without guilt. In one back than expected to fall into bed and pass out cold like a dropped sack of flour. They drifted, they floated, they got up if they needed to, and if they couldn't sleep, they prayed or talked or just listened. Imagine that today, getting up at 2 a.m., not to check emails or doom scroll, but to sit quietly with a candle and your own heartbeat. Maybe that's not such a bad way to live. Sure, the beds were lumpy, the air was cold, sometimes rats did unspeakable things near your toes, but still, there was rhythm, pattern, permission. You watch a young girl yawn as she carries a bundle of sticks toward her mother. Her braids are crooked, her eyes are heavy, but there's no rush. She's moving at the speed of someone who understands the day is long and the body needs time to arrive. You feel it too. You're not quite in the day yet, not fully, and that's okay. There's a gentleness in you now that wasn't there before, a slowness that feels like healing. Maybe this is what medieval people understood about sleep, not as an obstacle to productivity, but as a companion to life, as something to be respected, shaped around, held gently. It wasn't a performance. It was a practice. You head back inside as the sun clears the trees. The house smells like porridge and warm wood. Someone hums a half-remembered tune. A cat stretches across a windowsill like royalty. You find your seat again near the hearth. The embers have been stirred, and the flame dances like it knows secrets. You sit still for a long moment, letting the heat touch your fingers, letting your breath match its rhythm. And then, just before someone calls your name, just before the chores begin and the noise swells, again, you close your eyes one last time, just for a second, not to sleep, but to remember what it felt like to drift. To wake and not panic. To dream and not forget. To rest like someone who belongs in the dark. So now, as you lie back, real life, blanket tucked gently over your shoulders, maybe a pillow cradling your head, you can let go of the firelight and straw. Let the echoes of that slow, rhythmic life fade to a soft blur behind your eyelids. You don't need to carry the weight of lumpy mattresses or creaky floorboards into your real-world dreams. But you can carry the stillness, the permission to rest in stages, to wake and not worry, to sleep like it's an old, familiar ritual, like it's part of something bigger. Breathe in slowly. Feel the air enter like morning light through a shuttered window. Now exhale, like a whisper into straw, letting the tension melt away from your arms, your shoulders, your jaw. Imagine that. Medieval fire, the way it dimmed to soft orange, casting shadows on worn wooden beams. Imagine the hush that filled the room, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, but safe. Like the world is holding its breath just for you. That you're allowed to pause, that you're allowed to be tired. And you are so deeply allowed to rest. If there's no race now, no tasks waiting behind your dreams. Only the calm rhythm of breath. of time unfolding. Gently, let your body sink. Let the past drift further and further away, until all that's left is the soft hum of silence and the feeling that you are safe, warm, and exactly where you should be. Nothing more is needed. Close your eyes. Let's sleep. Come when it's ready. You don't have to chase IT. IT knows its way back to you. Sweet dreams.